May the celestial harmony guide us now as we bask in the holiness of this moment. Chosen One, you endured their calculated cruelty without respite, but now, the tides have turned. Their harsh deeds, once masked by hollow sympathy, will come back to shake the very pillars of their self-delusion. Every callous maneuver they orchestrated under the guise of care is cued for exposure in the universe's ultimate audit. You'll soon grasp that this betrayal wasn't random. It was a reckoning meant only for those destined to rise. The universe doesn't unleash its harshest teachings on minds not prepared for transformation. In truth, each blow was a cosmic sculpting, stripping away every doubt and limitation they assumed would break you, all while they convinced themselves they held your fate in their hands. Their strategy of control was so meticulous it might have been outlined in a covert ops handbook. Step 1. Surveillance. They monitored your conversations, tracked your routines, and identified the exact phrases that would sow self-doubt. Mastering your emotional triggers, they cloaked each declaration of care in a subtle toxin. They logged every act of kindness as a vulnerability to exploit, and whenever you proved steadfast, they viewed your devotion as nothing more than leverage waiting to be seized. Infiltration is phase 2. They were so ingrained in your life that getting rid of them was like ripping out essential organs. Your forgiveness served as their endless supply of energy, and your empathy as their food source. They presented themselves as the remedy for the ills they were covertly causing, the remedy for the poison they were gradually delivering. They thought your generosity was a sign of weakness, but it showed a strength they could never understand, the capacity to be kind in a harsh world, to love even when hurt, to hold on to hope when everything else seems lost. These are indicators of the Chosen One frequency, not a sign of naivete. The methodical destruction of your world was phase 3. They changed the norms of engagement in such a subtle way that you began to wonder if there had ever been boundaries. It was conditioning for every eye roll you made when you spoke out, every dramatic sigh you made when you expressed your emotions, and every change of topic when you voiced worries. When they held the knife, they were teaching you to shrink, to whisper when you should yell, and to apologize for bleeding. You started to question your own recollections since the gaslighting was so advanced. You're being overly sensitive. That's not what I said. You're inventing things. These weren't defensive reactions. They were strategic tools meant to cut your link to your own reality. However, something was happening deep within you that they were unable to see. Your consciousness was improving with every assault, creating spiritual defenses that would eventually render you impervious to manipulation in any way. Each falsehood they told made you more adept at spotting the truth. Your internal alarm system was strengthened by each boundary they crossed. Your intuition became more acute each time they caused you to doubt your sanity. Yellow heart if you feel the divine love. Now is the time to share. Click the super thank you button on YouTube to contribute $50 or more and help us spread God's blessings. What you do is being watched and serves as a seed, and in the future it will come back to you a millionfold. Their most cunning tactic was perhaps the isolation phase. They methodically eliminated all of your support networks or turned against you. Family members who were supposed to keep you safe joined the attack. Your isolation was facilitated by friends who seemed to adore you. Relationships at work become nasty just when you needed stability. This synchronization wasn't accidental. It was planned to make you totally reliant on their interpretation of events. The second revelation that will shake your foundation is that every attack was timed with mathematical precision. They created chaos to drown out your voice when you found it. They created new reasons to doubt when you started to trust again. They used shame when your confidence grew, and they used chaos when you started to heal from one wound. This was psychological warfare, not emotional instability. They might detect a shift in your frequency, similar to how predators perceive fear, with your spiritual growth as their main objective. Their entire operational structure was in mortal danger due to your increasing awareness. Their efforts to keep you unconscious grew more urgent as you got closer to remembering who you really were. because they knew what you were just starting to see, that your waking would set off a series of events that would reveal their game everywhere it was being played. They put everything they had at you. The level of spiritual surveillance you were subjected to was higher than that of any spy organization. They tracked your healing progress, emotional reactions, and energy output, like scientists researching a deadly mutation. Every discussion was examined for indications of increasing consciousness. Each new partnership was either removed or penetrated. Increased control measures were used in response to each step toward independence. In ways that would have made old torture experts cry with appreciation, your empathy was used against you. They found that using compassion instead of fear was the most efficient strategy to manage a chosen one. They were so good at playing the victim that you had to apologize for bleeding when they stabbed you. They are experts at making your reactions appear like overreactions and their attacks appear like accidents. Quantum shifts were taking place in dimensions they were unable to comprehend while they rejoiced over what they thought was their triumph over you. The pressure triggered the activation of your spiritual powers. Every time you tried to break your bond with cosmic truth, it was reinforced. In spite of their magnetic interference, your inner compass was recalibrating to true north. Every action has equal and opposite reactions, according to the fundamental order that rules this universe. The energy they expended on decreasing you was actually accruing interest in accounts they were unaware existed. The universe maintains flawless records, and it was mathematically clear that payment would eventually be due. The final realization that completely alters the game is that you were the spark in this situation rather than the victim. Your readiness to put up with short-term hardship in exchange for long-term development led to changes that go well beyond your own experience. You gradually set boundaries that allowed others to defend themselves. Every truth you eventually revealed made room for other people to speak up. You cleared the path for other chosen ones to follow with each step you took toward honest living. Comfortable circumstances could not have awakened the purpose you were born to fulfill. Gold requires fire, diamonds require pressure, and those who are chosen must endure hardships that would break the hearts of the average person. What nearly destroyed you actually made you whole, exposing strengths, love, and wisdom that come with overcoming the impossible. Even your $10 can answer amen to a child's prayer. Remember Jesus' compassion for the little ones. However, they made a disastrous mistake that ultimately led to their demise. They believed you would never fully awaken, never truly recognize their deceit, and never have the guts to leave everything you knew behind and venture into the uncharted realm of true selfhood. They wager on your obedience, your silence, and your readiness to protect their secrets, even if it means jeopardizing your own sanity. They had a tremendous loss on their wager. Their entire system of operations collapsed the once you stopped taking in their negativity, stopped justifying their actions, and stopped bearing emotional burdens that weren't yours. They had to confront the poisonous waste they had been disposing of for years. When you refused to be their emotional garbage disposal, they had to face the turmoil they had been spewing to your nervous system when you stopped supporting their dysfunction. They used their last tools at this point to coerce you back into compliance, guilt, duty, and manipulating other people. They used spiritual ideas as weapons against you, attempting to persuade you that boundaries were unloving and that self-defense was somehow unenlightened. They used flying monkeys to preach about forgiveness, healing, and moving on. However, the software used by chosen individuals differs from that of regular people. In your hands, the same spiritual precepts that others use to justify violence turn into instruments of freedom. Keeping up ties with those who are resistant to change is not necessary for true forgiveness. To be truly loved, one must love oneself enough to put up with abuse. Sometimes, true healing is letting go of the things that have hurt you and never turning around. They dread you more now than they did when they believed they had authority over you, which is the fourth revelation that will burn your soul to the ground. Their power was always a delusion sustained by your collaboration, as your awareness made clear. When you stop cooperating with them, when you stop playing their reality distortion game, their perfectly crafted facades started to fall apart like a house of cards in a hurricane. When you started transforming, the panic you saw was fear of losing their main source of energy, not worry for your health. You were no longer willing to be drained, and emotional vampires need willing victims to survive. Your current frequency is so high that it is physically painful to sustain relationships with lower vibrational individuals. This isn't a refusal on your side. Rather, it's the same natural rule stating unequivocally that water and oil don't mix. When they can no longer take advantage of your confusion, see how rapidly their confidence wanes. When no one is left to pretend that their lies make logic, watch how they fall apart. Observe how their manipulation techniques reverberate like steel bolts off your energy field. Every tactic they employed against the person you were before is ineffective against the chosen one you have become. Their current natural repercussions are not punishment, but rather instruction. The universe functions on divine timing and perfect equilibrium rather than retaliation. Everyone they sought to persuade that you were the issue saw what they sown in the dark being harvested in the light of day. The truth is coming to light, the mask is coming off, and karma is showing itself to be scientific proof rather than magical retaliation. Dove brother and sister, everything done in faith is returned in God's abundance. You can donate $100 using the Super Thank You button and be part of this divine call. If your roots are connected to Him, your fruit will be blessed. The fifth realization is that a communal awakening that transcends your personal realm is being sparked by your personal development. Others were given permission to cease living lies because of your bravery in speaking the truth. Your readiness to put authenticity ahead of approval demonstrated to others that true belonging can only be found when one does not compromise oneself for the comfort of others. Your refusal to put up with unsatisfactory treatment sparked a revolution that is now spreading through consciousness like wildfire in a parched forest. The frequency you now emit is recognized by other chosen ones. The community of awakened souls is coming together, bound together by unseen threads of shared purpose and experience. Others who are still in comparable cages can use your healing journey as a model. Your escape from their meticulously constructed jail has revealed that all cages are delusions that vanish as soon as a person loses faith in the locks. Everywhere they are discovered, the techniques they employed to try to break you are being identified and dismantled. Those who have survived comparable operations are mapping, documenting, and sharing the psychological warfare strategies they developed against you. Your greatest contribution to the healing of humanity has been transformed from what was intended to be your secret shame. However, something more profound than individual healing or even societal enlightenment is taking place that they never expected. Your metamorphosis is causing the fundamental fabric of reality to change. The veil separating illusion from reality is torn every time a chosen one escapes the matrix of deception. The entire fake reality they have worked so hard to uphold is starting to fall apart as these tears continue to spread, multiply, and link. They were using the energy they took from you to power complex systems of control that go well beyond your own experience, not merely to stroke their egos. You started a chain reaction that is undermining the entire network when you regained that energy and ceased to be their battery. Not only are they losing you, but they are also losing the infrastructure that enabled them to function covertly. Do you recall how they appeared to know precisely when to attack, which buttons to press, and how to plan their attacks on several fronts? They were using playbooks that had been honed over many generations, so it wasn't just psychological insight. Like genetic diseases of the spirit, the same strategies that were employed against you have been employed against many others and have been transmitted via families, organizations, and social systems. You shattered lifelong patterns that have been in place. The abuse cycle that was supposed to continue via you has been broken forever. Generational blessings have replaced the generational curses that were meant to run through your family. You not only cured yourself, but also unborn descendants and ancestors you will never meet. The spiritual battle you fought was taking place on several levels at once. In addition to attacking you verbally and physically, they were trying to cut off your link to higher guidance and separate you from the cosmic support system available to all chosen individuals. They attempted to persuade you that the cosmos itself had forgotten you and that you were alone. They failed to realize that those who are selected are never really alone. Unseen forces were at work even during your worst hours. Opportunities were set up, synchronicities were planned, and allies were positioned for the ideal time to enter your experience. Every book that came into your possession at the perfect moment, every stranger who showed you surprising compassion, and every epiphany that broke through the chaos weren't coincidences. Rather, they were interventions from realms beyond your tormentor's grasp. Your awakening didn't happen at random either. When your emancipation would have the greatest effect on the communal awareness, you broke free. Your unique frequency, your special combination of compassion and strength, your special comprehension of both light and darkness, was what the planet needed. You won a strategic victory in a much greater cosmic conflict between truth and deceit when you broke free from their hold. To sustain their own delusions of power, they had been relying on your continuing unconsciousness. Something fundamental in their worldview was shattered when you woke up and saw through their games with such clarity that you could never be duped again. They had bought into their own propaganda that they were better, smarter, and stronger than you. Your realization demonstrated that all of their alleged benefits were fleeting and ultimately pointless. Their current terror stems from the horrifying knowledge that they never really had power in the first place, not only from the fact that they can no longer control you. Their capacity to control unconscious people served as the foundation for all they believed to be true about strength, intelligence, and influence. Their whole basis falls apart when consciousness is introduced. Giving $100 is not just money. It is a lamp, a prayer, a new beginning for a soul in darkness. Not only is the group of awakened souls surrounding you providing support, but they are also laying the groundwork for a new paradigm. Every individual who acknowledges the veracity of your narrative contributes another node to a consciousness network that is rewiring the energetic grid of the globe. Your discussions, the boundaries you set, and the facts you express are all helping to create a collective change that will prevent future generations from falling into the same mistakes. Today's youngsters will grow up in a society where manipulation techniques are accepted and talked about. They will benefit from the knowledge that you had to acquire from hardship. For events that earlier generations had to handle alone, they will have access to words. Your suffering is turning into their defense. Their inheritance is being awakened by you. However, the change is not only happening in the present, it is also happening in the past. The truth you've discovered about your experience is bringing to light previously unquestioned historical occurrences, familial dynamics, and cultural customs. Survivors' perspectives are being used to rewrite stories that were previously told from the perspective of the offenders. Stories that portrayed victims as issues are being revealed as propaganda meant to shield the perpetrators. They never thought that their ability to break others would be genuinely broken by breaking you. Their exposure has become your survival. Their reckoning has become your healing. It is now their day to judge you. In the court of public opinion, the identical strategies they employed to destroy you have been utilized against them. The exquisite simplicity of this cosmic justice is its most beautiful feature. The same mechanisms that they employed to attempt to undo you are also undoing them. As individuals become aware of their toxicity and pull away, the isolation they created is now isolating them. Their sophisticated gaslighting is backfiring, making it hard to ignore their contradictions. As their actions are revealed in the open, the shame they portrayed is going back to its origin. Every doubt they sowed in your mind has blossomed into trees of knowledge about who they really are. Each falsehood they made about your personality has turned into evidence of their own moral failings. Every instance in which they persuaded you that you were the issue has turned into proof that they were consistently the biggest barrier to the solution. They broke a natural rule by hurting a person who was selected for greatness, and the repercussions are far worse than they could have predicted. Not only does the cosmos provide protection to those who are chosen, but it also turns their sorrow into strength that can move mountains. They have restored the energy they attempted to take from you, along with interest that grows every day. It is only now that you have the insight to understand how sophisticated their psychological warfare is. They created methodical tactics to dismantle your identity rather than merely attacking your self-confidence. After researching your basic beliefs, they set up circumstances that made you compromise them, making you feel hypocritical for having standards in the first place. They examined your aspirations and then methodically blocked all avenues to realizing them, leading you to conclude that having more was selfish or unrealistic. Their manipulation of your own development against you was the most heinous part of their plan. They always found a way to turn your advancements into weapons, whether you were learning a new talent or gaining a deeper understanding. They called you aggressive if you started to be more assertive. They labeled you chilly if you established boundaries. They accused you of deserting them if you stopped supporting their dysfunction. They used your recovery as proof of your callousness. When you stopped feeding their dysfunction, they suffered from severe and genuine withdrawal symptoms. Cut off from their supply, they were unstable, frantic, and violent, just like any other addict. They used all of the manipulation techniques they had ever mastered, frequently switching between them in the same conversation. Love bombing, silent treatment, guilt trips, threats, and phony apologies. They were placing all of their money on the one combination that would entice you to rejoin their web in a game of manipulation roulette. Glowing star if you want to witness God's miracles. Act now. Contribute $100 or more through Super Thank You on YouTube. Your offering is like a seed that comes back to you when planted. Let His light illuminate your steps. Every donation is an echo in His plan. The ability to trust their inner knowing more than outward affirmation, however, renders selected ones who have realized their true nature impervious to all forms of psychological manipulation. Once a whisper of uncertainty, the voice now roars with assurance. Once obscured by gaslighting, the intuition now pierces deceit like a laser through mist. They have rebuilt their self-worth on a basis that is impervious to earthly forces, despite their best efforts to undermine it. During this process, you experienced an alchemical metamorphosis in addition to a psychological one. The gold of insight was wrought from the lead of your suffering. The diamond of indisputable truth was crushed out of the coal of your pain. You were forged into a being of such genuine power by the heat of their attacks that manipulation reverberates off your energy field like rain off a mountain. A person who no longer needs their approval, fears their rejection, or believes their vision of reality is something they never thought was conceivable. You are now living evidence that their dominance was always a fabrication upheld by unwitting individuals. The entire house of cards instantly collapses when consciousness withdraws its assent. Not only did you escape, but you're thriving, which is the biggest blow to their perspective. They had persuaded themselves that if someone rejected their love, they would endure hardships and finally return, thankful to be embraced once more. Rather, they are witnessing your success in ways that were not feasible when you were confined within their poisonous environment. Your success without them is the ultimate rejection of all that they profess to believe about human nature, relationships, and commitment. There's no denying the proof of your change. The pandemonium that marked your time with them contrasts sharply with the calm that now emanates from you. Their misunderstandings and inconsistencies are further highlighted by the clarity of your speech. The happiness that permeates your days draws attention to the suffering that characterized your time spent under their spell. You are now a living example of the value of putting yourself first rather than settling for less. They are making a great effort to change history in order to portray themselves as victims, and you as the heartless, unappreciative person who left them when they needed you. because taking responsibility for pushing away someone who genuinely loved them would involve a level of self-reflection they can't sustain. They need this story to keep their sanity. See how they look for people who were not present at the intimate instances of brutality and manipulation, and how they get others to support their version of events. Observe how they retain flawless recall of every small error you have ever made, yet abruptly develop selective amnesia regarding the most serious infractions. Look at how they portray themselves as the long-suffering victims of your impractical standards and irrational expectations. However, receipts that cannot be erased or altered are preserved in the cosmos. The Akashic records of existence contain the energy signature of each interaction. The truth about what transpired between you is maintained in dimensions that are beyond of their grasp, and it is starting to show up in ways that make it hard for them to continue their lies. No amount of spin can override the way reality asserts itself. You have gifts that were dormant before the trial started, but the awakening process you underwent has awakened them. You've become so skilled at reading energy that you can detect manipulation from a distance. You've honed your intuition to the point where you can predict someone's genuine intentions before they're completely developed in their own minds. You have such sharp judgment that you can tell the difference between a calculated apology and sincere regret with surgical precision. These skills are tools for service, not merely for your safety. You are qualified to lead others through comparable struggles because of the knowledge you have received from surviving psychological warfare. Others are motivated to stand firmly in their own truth by the strength you gained from refusing to falter under duress. For those who are still confused, the clarity you attain by seeing through clever deception illuminates the way. The last realization that completes the circle is that the universe planned every aspect of this experience to shape you into precisely what the world needs at this moment. Your soul's dark night wasn't a punishment. Rather, it served as preparation. You learned to draw strength in solitude from the loneliness that almost broke you. Your confidence in universal truth was strengthened by the betrayal that destroyed your faith in other people. In the end, the manipulation that caused you to doubt everything caused you to doubt the correct things. Your hardships have given you gifts that are not just for your own use, but also as instruments for the healing of the world. Being able to see manipulation helps others avoid making the same mistakes. For souls still adrift in storms of deceit, your hard-earned insight serves as a lighthouse. Your metamorphosis demonstrates that light always manages to shine through even the deepest darkness. The people who have harmed you are learning that the rules of nature are more absolute than their fleeting delusions of control. With mathematical accuracy, energy returns to its source, and the energy they expended on destroying you is being compounded by their degree of purpose. They are discovering that conscious individuals that transgress the sacred rules of how souls should interact with one another will suffer repercussions that cannot be avoided by gaslighting. A $40 contribution is like the North Star guiding a lost soul at sunset. But, selected one, your gaze is no longer on them. Your eyes are now focused on unimaginable horizons. You're creating realities while they're frantically trying to preserve illusions. You're telling brand new stories while they struggle to dominate existing ones. You're creating the structures that will take their place as they cling to failing systems. The cycle that started when you were chosen for spiritual combat is now complete. Instead of destroying you, it annihilated everything within of you that didn't fit with your ultimate truth. Instead of silencing you, it made your voice louder until it could be heard across dimensions. Instead of isolating you, it brought you closer to a family of spirits that understand true power when they see it. Justice, balance, and the restoration of the natural order have all been accomplished, not by human retaliation, but by cosmic law reaffirming itself with the same certitude that fire climbs upward and water flows downward. Every line item of their cruelty has been recorded in the big ledger of universal balance, and the receipt has been printed. Now, chosen one, take a position of power. Instead of consuming you, the fire transformed you into something indestructible. Instead of blinding you, the darkness taught you to see through illusions. The solitude that was supposed to make you weaker instead made you realize how strong you were all the time. Greetings from your real beginning. The universe put too much effort into your growth to let your talents go unnoticed. Your survival of what would have destroyed anyone not selected for greatness is what the world needs. Now is your moment, selected one. You come to Earth in this time of profound change for this reason. Your fate awaits you now that the receipt has been fully paid.